Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, Profile here, and welcome. Welcome to part 34 of our very sad series, Who Killed Libby German and Abby Williams. Hard to believe we're at part 34, but it is what it is, and that's where we're at. This is over 4 years now, so it's taken a while, but I've got a feeling something's going to happen a lot sooner than later. Today, I want to talk about James Brian Chadwell from Lafayette, who abducted a 9-year-old girl. She was found bruised and abused in the basement of his house. Congratulations, James. You've just become a person of interest for us. You've become a person of interest because you've hit so many of our profile points. And we're going to show you them, folks. We're going to show you them. Now, everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. There's no question about it. But this guy here, there's a lot more to him. There's a lot more to him. And at this time, I want to take a minute to thank the police because, as far as I'm concerned, the Lafayette police saved this girl's life. I truly believe they saved her life. There's no question about it. So great work, guys. Out in Lafayette. Lafayette LE did a great job here. You know what? Because in any stranger abduction that results in a murder, 74% of the time, the victim is killed within 3 hours of the abduction. So usually when somebody's abducted, stranger on stranger, usually killed within approximately 3 hours. 74% anywhere killed within 3 hours. And we got that information from the Polycloss Foundation. Great foundation. Really, really outstanding. At this point, I want to give a shout out to Harvey Carroll for his recent enhancements on The Face of Evil. So you may want to check out The Face of Evil by Harvey Carroll. In fact, we'll put a link up there for you in the description. Also, another one by Anthony Greeno on this particular case. We'll put a link up there in the description. This is the latest vid that we've seen, again, on James Brian Chadwell. I think Anthony did a great vid here and got a lot of good information out. Y'all may want to take a look at it. We're going to be putting some clips out there on recent videos we've done, or in past videos we've done, to show the various profile points. It's a partial profile, but the profile points themselves on James Brian Chadwell. He's hit them. He's hit some good ones. He's hit enough for us to call him a person of interest. Being a loner. Dr. Mirsky, getting back to us believing that this guy is a loner, and obviously at this point we believe he was alone. Could there be an accomplice? Possibly. There's not a lot to work with on this case. We don't have a lot of information. We have hardly any information, but we're going to do the best we can with what we have and try and help out the families of these deceased girls and the people at Delphi. But Eddie, what kind of personality goes into a loner? What's a loner's psyche like? I mean, I know that's probably a very broad question, but I mean, what can you say about that? What would you like to talk about there?
Well, if the person does have we call SMI, serious mental illness. Sometimes it's called a BBMI, biologically based mental illness. They definitely tend to be loners. They don't interact that well with many people. Even if they're in the hospital, which I've worked in during the years, they tend to be alone. I mean, like you said, I mentioned before, they have, if not well controlled with medication, then they have a lot of internal stimuli operating. I mean, there's many types of mental illness that are not as serious. We call them like a schizotypal or schizoaffective people, and they are, the people that almost everybody agrees they're pretty odd and strange. And even on some level, if they're not really seriously impaired, they know it themselves, that they know that they're, different and odd. They've been treated that way. And they would probably tend to kind of keep to themselves. Not that they have no interactions. Um, we can think of a classic case, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Look at his social life and his personality. Uh, he, he, his whole life he was pretty isolated and into himself, and he accomplished a lot. He got a PhD in math. He was a professor, and he, had some interactions. And as most of us know, he even in his mind he had a romantic affair with, I think, a lady in a post office, if I'm not
library.
Library, yeah, okay. Um, but it was more like in his fantasy. I don't think it was reciprocated.
Right.
But to the point where he wound up living alone in a cabin, and we know, what happened after that. But
Very small cabin.
very small cabin, but made a lot of very sophisticated bombs, even with by lantern light. I guess there was certainly no electricity. Has a couple of candles, some lanterns, but he had a mission. He was called a mission serial killer. But if you look at his personality throughout his life, he was very much a loner. He very much kept to himself, very, very private. Um, and we know there is a disorder called social anxiety disorder, SAD, um, which is not as serious. That's not a serious mental illness. And the latest research shows that about 20-25% of the population has social anxiety disorder to some degree. And it's actually biologically based. They have found the gene for it. So there's a clear genetic predisposition for that condition. And then we can, again, maybe some other time, do you treat it? Do you not treat it? For people who are very disturbed by being that way, yeah, I guess they have a right to come in and be treated. There's other people that say just let them be. They have this tendency to be very shy, and so what's so terrible about that? Let them be that way, and live their life. So that's a whole nother issue right there. If it's treated, not treated, how do you treat it? So.
Yeah, and the bottom line is that the vast majority of people suffering from mental illness never even become violent, let alone become killers. Okay, so I think we need to put that out there too. But we do have some mentally ill killers. It's kind of like the vast majority of people that grow up in abusive childhoods will not become killers or serial killers or anything like that. But yet, when we look at serial killers, the vast majority of serial killers have been abused in childhood. So there's that small percentage that are out there stalking and killing. There's no question about it, and it's something we have to keep an eye on because I think it's getting ready to start to grow again. But that's a conversation for another time. Trolling around kids, hanging out near them, interacting with kids, TikTok. I don't understand. I don't understand guys down the hill. I I have to believe a weapon, and it was just guys down the hill. But it sounds more casual than down the hill to me. And again, it leads me to believe that this guy's, been around kids. And usually these types of guys, as I mentioned before in other videos, like to be around kids. That's what they do. They spend time, lots of times they take jobs where they're around kids. Lots of times they'll work in malls where they're around kids. They'll, spend time in parks. They'll be part of, different organizations that kids are involved with to be around them. These types of pedophiles, will do whatever they've got to do to be around children. You'll see clips. Probably has priors for trespassing. You'll see a clip on that. This guy's got 2 charges, 1 or 2 charges for trespassing. I'm pretty sure there's 2. Now, when I see a guy like this with trespassing charges, first thing that comes into my mind is voyeurism. This guy's peeping Tom, right? I mean, let's face it. This guy is a predator of little girls. Does he have a prior for trespassing? Does he have a prior for breaking an injury that was pleaded down to trespassing? Does he have a prior for, being a peeping Tom, being a voyeur, looking in windows, but it was pleaded down to trespassing? Is this guy a major shoplifter? Does he have that? Does he have priors for shoplifting, for theft of any kind? And he resembles the sketches and the great images that are being perfected and refined by the great people out there doing all this hard, tedious work. Does he have a history of stealing in general? That's primarily where I'm at. Yeah, I believe there's a history of molesting young girls, but I believe it's a history and it doesn't have to be a legal history. I believe it can be kept under wraps, the big secret of the family or the house. The other thing I look at is priors for violence. You'll see that in one of our clips as well. This guy also has a prior, I think, for assault, and it might be assault on a police officer, which brings out, of course, that antisocial personality disorder. But it's an assault on someone he's been charged with. I'm pretty sure it's a police officer. All I could tell you is this is a very sick person. And this person may have even molested or raped a young girl before. May have come up on charges. And doesn't want to come up on charges again. And he knows the best way not to is not to have a witness. So he's could be disposing of the witnesses. But there's some kind of prior somewhere, some history, and it may not be legal. It may be a best kept family secret. But what I'm going to tell you now is this guy's out of control. He's crossed the line. He's crossed the line. He's extremely sick. He's extremely violent. And he'll act out again. We've got to get him off the street because he will kill again. One thing we've talked about, you guys have commented on, and again, we love your info, we love your comments. We focused on this predator of Abby and Libby having a primary visual intake sense. This guy is a very visually oriented killer. And when looking at Mr. Chadwell, I really think that we're focusing in on, him being a hands-on visual welder And that's what we talked about. And you'll see that in one of our clips. The guy's visual hands-on is the type of guy we believe that was involved with Abby and Libby. And it seems Mr. Chadwell has that occupation. The other thing we talked about and why he's so visual, we believe that this guy probably took pictures, is into taking pictures. Really visual people really focus on pictures. If their primary intake sense is visual, believe me when I tell you, they have an eye for the camera, they have an eye for pictures. So knowing that, we've seen where Mr. Chadwell's taken a lot of pictures of himself, which also, when you see all these pictures of himself, his selfies, and alone or with his dog, I mean, you have to understand this becomes part and parcel of what we've talked about, that really extreme narcissistic personality disorder that we've talked about so much. These guys all have them. Can you imagine him on TikTok? I mean, this guy's 41, 42 years old. He's proud of himself, as proud of himself as he could possibly be on TikTok, trying to get some young girls to contact him. This is blatant narcissistic behavior. I mean, it's just incredible. Just incredible. So we've got an antisocial personality disorder who, of course, there's a narcissistic personality disorder included, okay? And then we talk about, and you'll see it in the clip, on how these guys try to control their urges to sexually abuse and kill, how hard it is for them. And you just have to wonder with this fella, how hard it's been for this guy to control his urges. Where's he been? This guy looks like he came from Tennessee, but he was in South Dakota. I mean, this guy's been all over the place. We got to see where he's been. This guy's pretty transient. This guy's gotten around. But you know what? I don't know how long he's been laying dormant and being able to control, his sexually violent urges. But obviously, it got to him. Obviously, it got to him. He couldn't control it any longer. That's my opinion. And again, he's innocent until proven guilty, no question about it. It's very, very rare, and the urge is something that they're usually compelled to carry out. I mean, that urge, from the people I've interviewed, they say is just so overwhelming. And where's he been for the last 3 years is my question. But the other piece of it is, when you look at it, that when he did start to come out, he came out pretty blatantly. I mean, really, dripping that narcissistic personality disorder all over the place, because for him to go on TikTok, I mean, it's pretty blatant, and, to express himself the way he did on TikTok in front of millions of people and millions of kids. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But we know these guys are extremely impulsive too. We know they're extremely narcissistic, but we know they're very impulsive as well. And again, what would his porn of choice be? We believe the guy's into porno. We talked about that. Primary intake sense being visual, being what I think is pretty sexually sadistic. I think you're going to see, this guy's really been into porno. I think somebody mentioned Pornhub, but there's a lot of people that are visit Pornhub that aren't going to go out and kill anybody or hurt anybody or rape anybody, right? This guy's got it going for young kids. I wouldn't be surprised if he has kiddie porn somewhere hid in the house or whatever. Because after the cops left the first time, he still got the girl in the basement, from what we understand. That would give him time to clean up or to hide or to put stuff in other places to really hide what he doesn't want law enforcement to find, just in case they come back, which thanks God they did, you know. Some of the pictures we've seen, it looks like he's a fisherman. He likes rural waterways, knows the creeks, the rivers, likes bridges. The guy likes bridges.
We have we believe is a very sadistic white male, 5'8" to 5'10", weighs approximately 200 pounds. Please let me know if I miss anything. Very well organized and structured. Has a very visual primary intake sense. Would probably be into some kind of hands-on visual type of job, as we've mentioned earlier. Also, what does he do in his fun time? Probably visual things. His primary visual intake sense, he's going to be focused on doing visual things. The other thing we talked about is he's not a typically social person, could be seen as odd or weird. He has a drastic need to control because he has such a low self-esteem, such a low self-worth. Tries to cover that up with his pathological narcissism. So by being the guy, the man in control, probably into hunting, extremely knowledgeable about that particular area, knows it very well. And, I would say he's somewhat of a visual bragger. Let me show you this. Let me show you that. Let me show you what I got over here. Here's a deer I got over there. Here's a fish I caught over here. So I think I think it's safe to say he's that kind of person, because the only thing he has going for him is what he can capture, control, and probably kill. That's his claim to fame in a lot of different ways. And again, like I said, could be focused into reading more for whatever reason, and looking at, I believe too, porno. Violent porno. I mean, it's all over the internet. Violent porno is. Do you guys agree with that? That'd be something he'd be interested in.
Sure. Yeah. Well, certainly porno in general, and maybe specifically more sadistic, sadomasochistic kind of activities. Yeah.
How about you, Frank?
Yeah, I basically believe that he probably is into pornography.
We'd like to know what this guy's doing with these dolls. I would like your feedback if you have any idea on these dolls that he has. I mean, we talk about them. They've been talking about it could be satanic dolls or whatever, or devil dolls. I don't know. But, between this guy's tattoos and these dolls that he has, that are on his Facebook and on Anthony Greeno's video. I mean, it's a little much. I mean, this guy really, really needs to be looked at. We need to do a deep dive into this guy and where he has been. Because the one thing we have a hard time with is believing that the guy that killed Abby and Libby did it his first time out. It's really hard to go from 0 to 60 in a situation like that. To go from never hurting or killing anyone to all of a sudden killing 2 young girls. So we always appreciate your feedback. Feel free to give us any tips. Leave any of your comments. We always love your info, as I said. Most importantly, take care of yourself. Make it a great day. Stay safe out there. Until we talk again, God bless. Thank you.